You know someone like this. They hurt you. They crossed a line. They lied, disrespected, disappeared, or betrayed your trust. And when you confront them, they deflect, they justify, they blame you, they change the subject. But they never say the two words that could fix everything. I'm sorry. At first you think it's pride. Then you think it's ego. Then you start wondering if maybe you're overreacting. But here's the unsettling truth. People who never apologize aren't just stubborn. There's psychology behind it. Dark psychology. Because apologizing requires something many people are terrified of. Vulnerability, accountability, and a temporary drop in power. And some personalities will do almost anything to avoid that drop. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some people would rather lose relationships than admit they were wrong. You'll understand the defense mechanisms, the power games, and the fragile structures hiding underneath their silence. And once you see it clearly, you'll never beg for an apology again. Stay with me. The first reason some people never apologize is ego preservation. For certain individuals, their self-image is everything. They don't just see themselves as someone who tries to do good, they need to see themselves as right, always right. When evidence appears that they were wrong, it creates internal conflict. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, the discomfort that happens when reality clashes with identity. If someone's identity is built on superiority, control, or moral correctness, admitting fault feels like psychological collapse. So instead of adjusting their behavior, they adjust the narrative. They reinterpret events. They minimize your feelings. They reframe themselves as misunderstood. An apology would require them to momentarily step down from their pedestal. And for someone whose self-worth depends on never falling, that step feels dangerous. So they avoid it at all costs. Another darker reason is power dynamics. An apology shifts power. When you apologize, you acknowledge impact, you admit responsibility, you temporarily place yourself in a lower position to repair trust. For emotionally mature people, this isn't threatening, it's relational. But for people who are obsessed with control, power must always be maintained. If they apologize, they fear losing leverage. They fear you'll see them as weak. They fear you'll feel justified. So instead of apologizing, they flip the dynamic. They accuse you of being too sensitive. They question your memory. They bring up something you did months ago. This isn't random. It's strategic. Sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, because if they can keep you defending yourself, they never have to defend themselves. And as long as they're not apologizing, they're not surrendering power. Some people never apologize because they lack emotional regulation. Apologizing requires sitting with discomfort. It requires acknowledging that you caused pain, that your actions had consequences, that someone else's feelings matter. For emotionally immature individuals, this is overwhelming. Shame feels intolerable. Guilt feels threatening. So instead of processing those emotions, they suppress or redirect them. Anger becomes easier than accountability. Blame becomes easier than reflection. Defensiveness becomes easier than humility. When you confront them, they aren't thinking, how can I repair this? They're thinking, how do I protect myself from feeling exposed? So they attack or withdraw or pretend nothing happened. Not because the issue isn't real, but because facing it feels unbearable. There's also something even darker, entitlement. Some people genuinely believe they shouldn't have to apologize. They see their needs, their stress, their emotions as justification for any behavior. In their internal hierarchy, their experience outranks yours. If they hurt you, they may view it as collateral damage. Unfortunate, but not their responsibility. This mindset often develops in environments where accountability was never required, where they were protected from consequences, where admitting fault was seen as weakness. Over time, they internalize a rule. I don't bend. Others adjust. And when someone operates from entitlement, an apology feels unnecessary. Why say sorry if you believe you were justified? In their mind, you're the one who needs to adapt. Another psychological layer is fear of vulnerability. An apology is intimate. It exposes imperfection. It says, I hurt you. It says, I'm flawed. It says, I care enough to admit I was wrong. For people who equate vulnerability with weakness, this feels unsafe. They may have grown up in environments where mistakes were punished harshly, where showing remorse led to humiliation instead of repair. So they built armor, and that armor doesn't allow apologies. It allows silence. It allows distance. It allows emotional shutdown, but it doesn't allow exposure. Ironically, the people who refuse to apologize are often the most fragile underneath. They aren't strong, they're defended, and defenses rarely create healthy relationships. There's also manipulation. Some individuals with strong narcissistic or manipulative tendencies withhold apologies intentionally. They understand that apologies restore balance. They reset emotional scales. They validate the other person's reality. By refusing to apologize, they keep you unsettled. You start questioning yourself. You replay the situation. You wonder if you were too harsh. This uncertainty keeps you psychologically engaged. It keeps you chasing closure. And as long as you're chasing closure, they remain in control. Silence becomes a weapon. Refusal becomes dominance. The absence of apology becomes a message. I will not validate your experience. And that can be more damaging than the original offense. Finally, some people don't apologize because they genuinely lack empathy depth. Empathy isn't just understanding someone is hurt. It's feeling a piece of that hurt internally. Without that emotional resonance, an apology feels performative, empty, unnecessary. They may intellectually know you're upset, but they don't feel the emotional weight of it, so they move on quickly. While you're processing, they've already compartmentalized. This doesn't always mean they're evil. Sometimes it means they never developed emotional awareness. But the impact is the same. You're left waiting for words that never come. So what does all this mean? It means when someone never apologizes, it's rarely about you. It's about their ego structure, their fear of vulnerability, their need for control, their emotional immaturity, their entitlement, or their lack of empathy. An apology requires strength. It requires humility. It requires security. And not everyone has built those traits. The dangerous part is this: when you stay in relationships where apologies never happen, you slowly train yourself to accept unresolved pain. You normalize imbalance. You convince yourself closure isn't necessary. But healthy connections don't avoid accountability, they grow through it. So stop chasing apologies from people who protect their pride more than your feelings. Because someone who can't say I'm sorry is someone who can't truly grow. And you can't build something stable with someone who refuses to admit when they shake the foundation. If this made you reflect, sit with it. Awareness isn't revenge, it's freedom.